Welcome, food and fitness lovers, to Tina's Ageless Kitchen. I'm Chef Tina Martini. You might know me as the Medicine Chef. Welcome, food and fitness lovers, to Tina's Ageless Kitchen. I'm Chef Tina Martini. You might know me as the Medicine Chef. Well, we're in the Southwest today, and that's my home. I'm raised in San Diego. Spent a lot of time in Arizona as well, and love New Mexico. So all through the Southwest, we've got great chili flavors, and we use a lot of black beans. That's what we're gonna do today, is make some black bean burgers. Really great alternative to the beef burger. And who doesn't love a burger? I think that's one of my personal favorites. And these black bean burgers are sure to please even the most hardcore carnivore. The first thing I think we need to do, though, to stay in the Southwest is make a really nice barbecue sauce to go over our chili spiced black bean burger. There's one thing that I want to get started right away. I have some ancho chilies here, and ancho chilies really contain a lot of capsaicin. They're really great blood purifiers, but here's the thing about the ancho, it really warms the system, so it helps us to burn body fat more efficiently. And I'm not talking necessarily about the heat of the chili, I'm talking about the way that the chili warms the bloodstream and really makes the body much more efficient. That applies to almost every single organ in the human body. We want that warmth, particularly in the wintertime. So the dried ancho, I just ground it up. You run your knife through it, it's not that hard to get through. And then we're gonna go ahead and put it in some hot water. We're just gonna reconstitute it like we would any other dried ingredient, and it makes it a little more palatable and releases those essential oils for maximum flavor. I'm gonna get some olive oil going, and we're gonna saute a couple different types of onions. Now, the barbecue sauce alone, chefs, is loaded with delicious medicine. And as you can see, we've got a number of ingredients here that each have their own phytonutrient profile. So I'm gonna get some heat underneath my olive oil, and then we'll start the saute on some purple onions, and I'm gonna use white onion, just a little more pungent than a yellow onion. It has just that nice, delectable, clean allium flavor. All right, let's get some heat underneath our burner and warm this oil up. Now, grapeseed oil would be great here. Olive oil, of course, really not for high heat. We're gonna saute gently with our olive oil today, so we'll be fine. But grapeseed oil is a great choice, as is sunflower or safflower. And if you're a big coconut fan, you could also use the unflavored coconut oil. Yeah, they actually have that now. So that's a great thing if we're going to fry and do other things. I'm just gonna gently saute our vegetables. So I've got some finely diced white onion and a little bit of purple onion. Now, why the purple onion? Well, the purple onion's pretty classic for Southwest cuisine. And if you're gonna call yourself a cook in the kitchen, you really want to know your ingredients. So do a little bit of research. I think you'll find it interesting how different ingredients are used throughout different types of cuisine. Every culture has its own mirepoix, and mirepoix is the foundation. It's the French word for a melange or a mix of vegetables that provide the base for all of our flavors. So that's basically what we're doing, is making a little Southwest mirepoix with our chilies and our two types of onions. So I'm just gonna coat that with the oil a little bit and let that go. And let's talk about our other ingredients. We've got yellow mustard here. Now, big in the news, chefs, I'm sure you've heard of curcumin. Turmeric is a source of curcumin. Now, it has nothing to do with our really famous Southwest spice, cumin. It's on its own, and it's what gives mustard and curry powder the bright yellow. Now, the curcumin is a major breast cancer fighter. Really great research now showing us that the curcumin, when absorbed every day, and I personally make tea out of the fresh root, you could take turmeric powder if you wanted, builds up the immune system and the natural killer cells. Yep, that's right. You've got natural cells in your body that are programmed to fight disease, and particularly major diseases like cancer. So the yellow mustard is really high in that turmeric. That's why it's bright yellow, and therefore you're getting a good dose of your curcumin. All right, we've got another yellow star here, and that's peach puree. Peach puree and barbecue, you say? I think you're gonna find it really delicious. Obviously, it gives that sweet, kind of smooth texture to the barbecue sauce. I've pureed it here and removed the skin before I did. An easy tip on how to get your skin off of your tomato or your peach is just to take your paring knife and score it at the base of the fruit and then dip it in boiling water for 1 minute. It's called concasse in the culinary world, and that dipping and taking it out of the water just helps you remove that skin effortlessly. All right, so we've got a little bit of melting going on with our onions. And again, we're keeping it kind of low and slow here. We want to bring out the natural sweetness, not so much the caramelization, but we are going to top our burger with caramelized onions, one of my personal favorites, at the end of our plating. All right, so let's look at what else we have. We've got our peach for the carotenoids and the vitamin A. We've got a little bit of tomato puree. Now you could use ketchup if that's all you had available. I want to control the sweetness a little bit more in my barbecue sauce, so I reach for the tomato puree. Now cooked tomatoes, really great source of lycopene, prostate health, skin care, really great for the heart disease and fighting the heart disease and strengthening the actual heart muscle. So ladies, it's not all about the prostate, but we love our men and we want to take care of our men. It's really about your heart health as well. So let's go ahead and add that into our onions. It started to sweat those onions. They don't need to be all the way because we're going to go ahead and continue to cook. I'm going to add our mustard in, our curcumin, if you will, or our turmeric source. Our turmeric looks like ginger in a way, but it's bright orange. So look in your health food store in the produce section and see if they don't have the fresh turmeric root. You can prepare it just like you would fresh ginger tea by removing that little bit of bark or tough skin on the outside, dicing it up or slicing it up and throwing it into some boiling water. Really easy. Both ginger and the turmeric root are wonderful, particularly for hormone balancing. Guys, that goes for you. It's a burger show, so I know you're watching. But ladies, we take care of our men, so you kind of give them that gentle nudge into the things they need to be doing. All right, let's add some peach puree to that, and I'm going to go ahead and put all that in. I like the flavor. It's kind of an unexpected ingredient in our barbecue. I'm going to do a little bit of salt, not much, but again, it's going to lift up all of the ingredient flavors. Dry mustard. Now, why dry mustard and the wet, regular yellow mustard, chefs? Each has its own profile as far as what happens on the palate. The powdered mustard or the dried mustard actually has a little bit more of a warming quality to it, and then the wet or prepared mustard has more of a zing. It's got a little bit of vinegar in it, so that's nice on both sides of the palate. Remember, you're looking at what's going on all over the mouth, not just at the front of the mouth. So the first thing you taste is the front of the palate, and then what happens when we start to chew, that's the middle of the palate, and then what happens after, the aftertaste after we swallow it, and that would be the back of the palate. So you want to consider all three areas of the palate. Okay, so we're cooking this down, and I am going to let it reduce a little bit. Let's go ahead and get some of our ancho chili out. I'm going to add a little bit of the cumin, which is earthy and warm and really a signature flavor for our Southwest barbecue sauce. Oh boy, isn't that looking great? I do like the texture with the onions in that, but if you wanted to smooth it out, you could do it in your blender, your food processor, or if you have a stick blender, a boat motor like the great Chef Emerald calls it, then you could just mix that down and smooth it right out like a bottled barbecue sauce would be. But again, I'm gonna go for a little texture here. Let me work that cumin in. I'm smelling the warmth of the mustards, really nice, and I think it's going to be a really nice accompaniment to our spicy black bean burger. Now let's go ahead and pull just a little bit of the ancho chili out. I'm not going to use all of this. We're going to use a little bit later on in another preparation. So let's go ahead and do maybe 2 teaspoons. And getting a little bit of the water is great because that's just going to add that ancho chili flavor all the way through our barbecue sauce. All right, so we've got everything in that we need for our barbecue except the apple cider vinegar. Now here's another guy that's been in the news a lot, like our curcumin or our turmeric in our mustard. The apple cider vinegar is old school medicine, really long time in the kind of family home remedies, if you will. Apple cider vinegar lowers the blood pressure by relaxing the vascular system. And if you find that your blood pressure is really high or you're under a lot of stress, a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar in a small mug of warm water, and just drink that like you would tea, is really going to, again, relax the vascular system, and once we've relaxed the vascular system, the blood pressure will come down naturally. It's kind of what taking a leisurely stroll around the block would do for you, but it's quick and efficient in the warm water. All right, so I'm gonna let this simmer for a little bit. Once we pull the sauce off of the heat, I'm gonna add the vinegar in at that time. If we cook the vinegar too much, it can create a bitter aftertaste at what? The back of the palate, chefs, that's right. We want to consider all 3 zones, if you will, on the palate. So I'm going to go ahead and let this reduce. And when we come back, we're going to create our Southwest black bean burger, and we'll add our apple cider vinegar to our sauce. I'll see you in just a minute.
Hi, I'm Chef Joe Simonera with Taste This Television, here to talk to you about Accelerator Hand Dryer. You know, keeping up with hygiene, washing my hands, and making sure that there's no transfer of bacteria is important for me and Taste This TV, which is why I rely on a machine like Accelerator to dry my hands. It's efficient, it's strong, and it's powerful, and it only uses up electricity and energy when you put your hands under and take them away. So for drying my hands in the kitchen, I rely on the Accelerator to handle all of those needs. For more information, log on to the website at the bottom of the screen.
All right, chefs, we're back in the Ageless Kitchen for some Southwest black bean burgers with our own barbecue sauce and our secret ingredient, that peach puree. Let's just check on our sauce, and it's reducing nicely. The color is intensifying a little bit, and that's what we want. Of course, we smell our food first, then we see it, and then we taste it. So we want all 3 of those elements, just like the 3 zones on our palate, to line up and be perfectly balanced. And it looks like we're doing good over here. Now let's go ahead and turn to our black bean burgers. Now you can either do canned black beans or you can cook your own like I did. And of course we want to soak these in fresh water overnight, drain and rinse, and then cook them in fresh water again. If you have a little challenge with the oligosaccharides, and what the heck is that? The oligosaccharides are a sugar protein that make us just a little bit gassy sometimes. If you have a challenge with beans with that, you could always get the product that kind of alleviates that, and we all know that. But you could also throw a sheet of kombu seaweed in. And most people aren't aware that the seaweed not only is going to add a little bit of salt without toughening the bean, and I do want to mention that don't salt your beans and lentils and legumes while they're cooking because it does toughen them. You want to salt it at the end to taste, and that's a better way to go with the beans. Now, the cooking of the beans, important to use the fresh water, change it out, and then add the seaweed with more fresh water and start the cooking process. So go ahead in the cooking water and add the chili powder, onions, or whatever it is, cumin, that you like to flavor your black beans with, especially when we're going with the Southwest theme, but keep the salt at the end so we don't end up with tough beans. All right, so I'm gonna put half of the beans in the blender and puree them nice and smooth, and then I'm gonna leave a little bit of the whole bean, and that gives that nice meaty texture, if you will, to our burger. So let's go ahead and whip them up. Now, our food processor would work here as well. If you had a stick blender or immersion blender, you could do that, and that's really fast and easy. So the black beans now, they're not really black, are they? They're purple, and that tells us that they've got those real great anthocyanosides that we talk about a lot in the Ageless Kitchen, and that strengthens the vascular system. But what else they've got is something called lignans, and lignans really are a very powerful form of protector for our receptors. Now, the hormones go through the receptors, which look like goalposts, and when hormones race too quickly through those receptors, they tend to damage the receptor, and that's how a mass starts. So the beans, lentils, legumes, whole grains, they all are very high in lignans, and they stop that damage to the receptor, so they really protect us. Now, a lignan is round in nature, and it seeks out only the damaged receptors, just more miraculous stuff that goes on in this machine we call the human body. Now, as the lignan parks itself, if you will, on top of the damaged receptor, no more hormones can go through, and that prevents a mass from forming. So hooray for the black beans. They protect our heart, our vessels. They're great for spider veins. Chefs like me stand on our feet all day, and if you're the same, we want to protect the small veins, the little spider vascular system, as we do the large veins from varicose veins. And the black beans really help contribute to health in both sets of the veins. All right, what else have we got here? We've got some red bell pepper, and the more colorful the palette, the more colorful the plate, the more phytonutrients we have. I'm going to put in a little bit of our apple cider vinegar, and we're going to finish our sauce with this, and I'd mentioned that earlier, our high blood pressure lowering tool. And we're getting really thick over here, chef, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the fire off. Let's give that a stir and scrape down the pan so we get all of that yummy caramelization going on in the pan, and it's nice and thick now, as you can see. Let's go ahead and just set that aside for a minute and continue on. I've got a little bit more of the hydrated ancho chilies, our blood warmer, our warmth that creates more efficiency in our organs internally. I've got some red and yellow jalapeno. Now, if your family isn't for the heat, don't worry about it. Just leave these out or use a mild type of chili like an Anaheim. I put in a little bit of the apple cider vinegar. I'm going to use just a tiny bit of the Worcestershire. The Worcestershire adds a little bit more of that meaty characteristic to our vegetarian burger. All right, let's go ahead and add a little bit of cilantro. Now, cilantro is very high in apigenin, and the apigenin, of course, another great hormone balancer. So we're going to call this menu today our hormone balancing hero, because it really works on a lot of different levels and in a lot of different capacities to keep our hormone receptors healthy and free from damage. Now, the cilantro is one of the highest contents of apigenin that we know. If you don't care for cilantro, just change it out for flat leaf parsley, and that's all the way across in any recipe. And again, it is high in apigenin as well. I've got a little bit more dry mustard, and we're going to echo the flavors that we used in our barbecue sauce. Cumin, and I've got some chili powder, and I'm going to do a little bit of cayenne just because I'm going for heat, but you don't have to do that. If you don't want the cayenne, that's fine. All right, let's put that in. Let's put a garlic clove in because we're just going to whip it all up. I'm going to echo again the flavors of our sauce in our burger. So some purple onion, and it will act as a little bit of a binder. A little bit of salt. I've got a lot of chili powder in here, so I don't tend to go for the black pepper. You may want to do some salt and pepper as well. And now, one of our other binders is going to be an egg white. If you're not doing eggs, If you're a vegan, then go ahead and use bloomed chia seeds, and we've done that in the Ageless Kitchen before. So remember, that's always an option, chefs, in your vegan and your vegetarian cuisine or recipes. Just bloom the chia seeds in the water, turns like a gel consistency, which is very similar to the gel-like consistency of the albumum in the egg white. Now, the albumum in the egg white, one of the most powerful cholesterol lifters we know of. Let's go ahead and add just a little bit of olive oil, and all of these things help us to bring the burger together. I'm gonna whip this up, and then we're gonna mix it with our whole beans and form our burger. Now, I like to let these sit overnight if possible. They really come together and they solidify in a much nicer, again, more of a traditional hamburger type feel. If you don't have time, you're just gonna leave them in the oven just a little bit longer. All right, let's blend this up and get these started. Just increase your speed gradually and we'll scrape that down. Now look at how many ingredients and how much flavor that's gonna render. If you wanted, you could even put in a little bit of your finished peach barbecue sauce, and that would be really great. I'm gonna increase my speed now. All right, let's go ahead and scrape this down. All right, so just go ahead and continue to blend and just stop and scrape it down. It's thick, you want it that way, so you're gonna have to work with it a little bit, chefs. But once it comes together, you'll see that it's really nice and smooth. It's got a great aroma. We're gonna add it to our whole beans, and then we're gonna form our burgers and pop it in the oven. So I've got a sheet pan here that's been sprayed with pan spray, or wipe it with your oil, whatever you like. Let's go ahead and take this out and mix it with your whole beans. All right, this smells terrific. Wow. And I just really can't stress how much medicine is in this. It truly is one of our great, delicious medicine recipes. Okay, so we're gonna mix that together and form our burgers, and then we'll go ahead and finish them in the oven. And again, you know, around 325, because you wanna have a chance. It's not so much of cooking the ingredients, because the beans are already cooked. It's more setting the burger up so that you can get it onto a bun without it breaking apart. Okay. All right, so we'll mix that all together. And that looks great. All right, and we're gonna combine our mix with all of our vegetables and spices and herbs with our whole bean. And again, that's gonna give a nice texture. But here's the trick. Are you ready for the secret? Let's get another blender here and go ahead and make our Vital Wheat gluten. Now, this isn't a gluten-free burger, and I know that's all the trend right now. So I'm gonna use a whole grain spaghetti, and I'm just gonna grind that down to make kind of a whole wheat flour, if you will. Yep, the spaghetti goes right in, and then we're just gonna grind that into powder and add some water, and that makes the Vital Wheat gluten that you find in vegetarian burgers. And this is what the secret is to getting that meaty texture. All right, so let's grind this up. And it'll grind right down the flour. Now, if you were gluten-free, you could use wild rice or brown rice to do that. Now you can see it's turning to powder, so it's gonna be like our flour, and it's gonna set the burger up beautifully so we don't have too loose of a burger. If you're gonna tell somebody you're serving them a burger, they want that meaty bite. Okay, so we're getting there. I'm gonna just pick it up just a little bit. And there it is. Our spaghetti is now flour. So now why wouldn't we use the whole wheat flour? I'm sure that's what you're thinking, chefs. And the reason is because it's too doughy. It's too raw tasting. This is a cooked product. They've already finished the pasta, and so we get a more finished product. All right, so let's go ahead and add a little bit of water to this, and that's gonna make, like I said, our Vital Wheat gluten. Just a tiny bit. You don't want a lot of liquid going on because we're going for that burger feel as well as that great Southwest taste. And that's it. That's all there is to it. Let's go ahead and add this in. Oh yeah, it's really thick. You can see, let me use my spoon here. Doesn't matter if we have a little bit of the sauce flavor. And get this out. And again, it's a thick paste. We're gonna add that right in. It doesn't take much, so don't overdo, because then your burger will be too dry, and we don't want that. We want a nice moist feel on the palate. Okay, let's just get one more spoonful, and we're all set. We're gonna mix that up. I'm gonna switch out my spatula here and just put that over here and mix my vital wheat gluten in. All right, and that's gonna tighten that up. Now we're gonna do this again in the oven, and that's gonna help set it up. And we're all set. Let's go ahead and form our burgers. So I'm just gonna scoop out a little bit here. We'll do 2, and scoop out a little bit there. Now if you find that it's too loose, just go back and get a little bit more of your wheat gluten. Okay, so just form a burger, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And then we'll go ahead and pop these in the oven. When we come back, we're gonna top it with our fantastic peach barbecue sauce and some caramelized onions. Who wouldn't love that? I'll see you in just a moment for some Southwest black bean burgers.
For generations, our family has perfected authentic Mexican dishes, from seasoned chicken and beef to carnitas, arroz, and barbacoa. The Cardenas family has always followed the traditions of their ancestors when it comes to cooking. From the beginning, they've created authentic Mexican dishes from scratch using recipes that have been passed down and perfected over generations. This tradition of gathering around a great meal with family and friends is what Del Rio Foods strives to pass on. From our family to yours.
All right, well, we're back and we're getting ready to enjoy our Southwest burger. Now, since everybody's kind of shying away from bread for one reason or another, I don't understand it personally, I thought we would just do the patty on its own with some of the barbecue sauce that we made with our secret ingredient, the peaches. And I've got a little bit of caramelized yellow, white, and purple onion, again, to kind of mimic all of the ingredients that we used in our sauce and our burger. So let's go ahead and get these off of the pan. They just came out of the oven, and you can see that they hold up beautifully. They could go right on a bun and be just delicious if you wanted to do them that way, but we're gonna have them this way for now. Any way you like. You could even do a wrap if you wanted and put them in a piece of butter lettuce. That would be delicious. I'm just gonna brush them with the sauce, but of course if you just wanna drizzle the sauce over, that's fine. And this gives them a nice, really glazy look to them. Really beautiful. You could even brush them and put them in the oven if you wanted. And this is just delightful. The aromas here, true Southwest flavor and aroma. And then we could nappe just a little bit on the side if people wanted a little extra sauce. Okay, how does that look, chefs? I think that looks terrific. We'll go ahead and set that aside. Let's put our topping of our caramelized onions. And remember, low and slow on the onions will do it. A little more quercetin, a little more allium compounds. Got our lignans in our black beans. And boy, I could eat that for lunch right now. Well, I hope you've enjoyed your time with me as much as I've enjoyed my time with you. Anytime you want to take a ride down to the Southwest, you come on with me and I'll show you what we want to eat and how we want to work with all the zones on the palate. Make sure you use the amount of spice that's right for you and your family. I kick these up with 2 kinds of jalapenos, the red and the green. We've got lots of arthritis fighting medicine here and lots of hormone balancing lignans. All right, well, next time you want to take a ride down to the Southwest, you come on with me and we'll eat it up. We've got our great black bean burgers with lots of spice. Leave the jalapeno out if it's not for you and your family. Remember, it's one of our most powerful arthritis weapons. We've We brushed it with our secret ingredient, peach barbecue sauce. We echoed all of the flavors between the burger and the sauce, creating perfect balance on the front of the palate, the mid palate, and the back of the palate. You're the chef, you take control, and I'll see you next time in the Ageless Kitchen. I'm Chef Tina Martini. Here's to your health